Hey everybody, thanks for coming back to see me again. And here's another Journeys with Jack. This is a very easy and interesting one. If you find yourself at JFK Airport with a layover, you need to get on the air train and ride over to Terminal 5, that's the JetBlue terminal, and then follow the signs to the Twa Hotel. You'll see the brilliant red and white logo and color scheme. And this is a terminal designed and built in the late 50s, early 60s for the very flamboyant head of TWA Airlines, Howard Hughes. So if you'd like to know more about Howard Hughes, there's a couple of great movies with him. One called The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio playing the title role. There's another one called The Amazing Howard Hughes with Tommy Lee Jones playing the title role. Both fabulous. He was one of the early American billionaires, famous in screen and also in real estate and also with TWA Airlines. So, way back in the 1950s, they decided to build this brand new futuristic looking terminal with these neat looking air tubes. It really does look like something out of the Jetsons. Now that's kind of ironic in that there is a information placard that tells you about all kinds of events from 1962. So basically the hotel is meant to be set in 1962. Well, it's all red and white, brilliant looking. When you first step off the air train and come up to it, it looks like maybe something tilted with wings and a head in the middle, maybe like some type of all-white pterodactyl. It's fascinating. And there's all manner of vintage cars outside, old Citroen, a Lincoln with suicide doors, a Grateful Dead style VW bus, even a DeLorean, maybe a wee bit out of place for the time. And then as you walk inside, there's a three-seater BMW, red and white. Well, I got inside it and sat in it. Fascinating. And then as you look around, everything's that red and white motif. There is a lounge, just like it would have been in 1962. There are giant departure and arrival boards that they flip the times, kind of like are done in Europe in the train stations. Apparently that was done in the old days before we had TV screens in the airports to tell us arrival and departure. I also noted old Coke machines. It's just so many fascinating ancient things dating back to the early 60s. There's a mock-up of a beauty salon all in pink next door to a twister room showing the old yard game, I guess. It brought me back to my fraternity days. It was fascinating. Well, on the wall is a information placard that compares 1962 to present. Great information with the number of population in the states, interesting graphics about all manner of society from then and now. On that same placard, you learn that 1962 was the year that the New York Mets first played their first baseball game. The Beatles' first major hit, Love Me Do, came out. John Glenn orbited the Earth, and the very first James Bond movie came out with Sean Connery called Dr. No. Well, if you continue on, you can walk through what are called the flight tubes, which apparently were the walkway that you took to get out to where you would board the flight. There are also numerous posters from yesteryear, great advertising art showing that TWA flew to India, Egypt, Paris, London, etc. But perhaps the piece de la resistance is if you go outside to an ancient propeller plane that has a bar inside it. This has been voted one of the best hotel bars. So this has a very important historical significance. So this terminal was basically obsolete right after it opened. It just wasn't big enough for the jet age. So the plane that they built it to accommodate was made by Lockheed. It was called the Constellation. At one time it served as Air Force One when President Eisenhower was around. So it was a four-propeller plane. and it could fly about 100 and some odd passengers, but it was quickly supplanted by competition. For instance, the Boeing 707 could fly something like 300 plus passengers, and so the Constellation really couldn't compete. So very quickly the terminal was obsolete. The plane that was supposed to be the flagship became obsolete. Now the hotel bar that I'm referencing is built inside of an old Lockheed Constellation. It's nicknamed Connie. Now, this particular plane had served time in Alaska in the Bush service and apparently was later used for drug running from Latin America up to the States. And then it languished for a while, and then it was discovered up in Maine, and it was restored and brought here to the terminal. And then they had the great idea of making a bar on the inside. Now they have as one might expect, a signature cocktail. I did not actually partake, but what I found fascinating was the inside of the fuselage is the bar. So where you would go and sit maybe in the 1960s in the upholstered chairs and buckle in and fly away to perhaps India or England or Egypt, etc. Now they have the plush upholstered chairs, but there's a bar at the end of the fuselage. What I like very much is that they have retained an authentic cockpit and a very interesting piece of navigational history called the Astrodome, not to be confused with where the baseball team plays in Houston, Texas, but this Astrodome was a bubble-shaped, almost like a skylight. And if you look up as you're approaching the cockpit, you can look through it. And what would happen in those days was a navigator would look through it and use celestial navigation. This was before the days of GPS, and they used a type of sextant, like in the old days when people used sextants on sailing ships. It was called a bubble sextant, and they would use stars as navigational points to help them in their trip across the ocean. So obviously they were flying frequently at night, and this is how it was done in that time prior to the advent of GPS. So fascinating to see that aspect of navigation as well as the instruments in the cockpit. But exiting from the bar and Connie Constellation aircraft, you can go back into the main terminal, see a model of what it all looked like back in the 1960s, and they have, as one might expect, a souvenir shop with all manner of things TWA. Well, if you continue down towards where you initially came in and turn to the right-hand side, you'll see the check-in counter for the people that are staying at the hotel. I'm going to tell you, it made a great visit when I was there on a layover. Easy to get to, take the air train over to it, wander around, and they are very helpful and energetic, friendly people. They'll answer questions for you, show you the exhibits, and if you get a chance, stay at the hotel. I hope to do so on my next trip. The whole thing is really fascinating. So, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you again on a future Journeys with Jack episode. I hope I'm giving you practical advice so that you can get out and travel and find out and visit some of these cool places that I also have visited. Have a great day. Talk with you soon, I hope. Bye.